Do you enjoy teaching like that?
I love it, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do. Now you have
yeah.
to get used to it, okay?
Yeah.
And there's,
You know, when I go in for a heart operation, I don't want my heart surgeon to be taking a constructivist approach. He wants it to be procedural, like there's no kind of, this worked, this didn't work.
I I have nothing to add to that. So you're very welcome back to another CESI staff room webinar. We're live. We're still finding our feet at the minute, so I hope you can stick with us. What we're going to do is we're going out live at the minute. If you're joining us live, you're very welcome. We're going to record this and edit it, and I'll top it and tail it, and we'll put it on the CESI website, and we'll put it on the CESI YouTube channel. Joining me as always is Helen O'Kelly and Dermot Walsh. You're very welcome.
thank you very much, Hassan.
So
Thank you, Hassan.
today's theme, we're talking about pedagogy and the educational use of technology. Did I get the title right?
You did.
Okay. Mission one done. So let's get straight into it. Look, it's been, how long are we back? 2 weeks, 3 weeks? What's it, Helen, what's it been like?
What's it about? Do you hear the pause? Hectic. It's great though to be back. It's really great, and I keep on saying that. I'm in a secondary school. I keep on saying it's a privilege to be here, and we have to do everything we can to make sure we can stay here. But it is hectic, and I would say that we all faced challenges when we went to doing remote teaching, and now we are in a different scenario where we're facing challenges of being back in the classroom, but having to use technology like we did an assembly yesterday, and like to broadcast, we had students in all the different classes, and then we were, as we said, broadcasting from the computer lab. So these are things every day, every half an hour. I think I'm learning something new technologically that I didn't have to have done last year if we were just in what the old traditional face-to-face. So it's exciting, but it's exhausting as well.
Dermot, what about yourself?
Yeah, pretty similar. I mean, as a principal, I would find that maybe during the summer, so once the roadmap came out, it was very busy since then. But I suppose like we've a really good team in the school, and we got the groundwork and the foundations in place. So since we've reopened and gone back into the class, it's busy and it's different, even though you want to make it as, I suppose, not, you don't want it to be a big difference. And you find like teachers very quickly, they're very keen to get back into things, like at the beginning, for example, we'd maybe said that we would stand away a bit from doing corrections, that type of thing, just to ensure there was appropriate social distancing. And after a couple of weeks, it's just embedded within you, like if teachers and they just want to get in and get to work with the kids. And I suppose to echo what Helen is saying there, like it's great to be back. It really is. It's great for the kids. It's great for the parents. It's great for ourselves. Like but it's busy and it's a little bit different. But positive as well, I think, Helen. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. It is positive. It is really positive. And it's just, I think the first or second day back, I was fixing a Mac, and I was in the art room. And I think the greatest thing I could hear was just the buzz of students drawing and just chatting. And I tell you, all the technology in the world can't harness that, so that's fantastic.
That's fair to say. And how's it been for you, Hassan, then?
It's been tough. I'm not going to lie. It's the first year I've been stressed out doing what I'm doing, and we said this briefly off air, and I'm not going to dwell on it too much. But the amount of problems coming my way, problems that I never envisaged. Like I've been doing this for as long as I've been doing. Like, for example, the one base room and the teachers move around. So now it's no longer a PC has an issue. Now it's that issue turns into a bit of an echo chamber for every single person that uses that room. And then you add in the equation, those teachers who are lighthouses, and they have their own devices. What device do they have? Do they have an iPad? Do they have a laptop? Some of them are like they're really out there. They're using a phone for presentations, so they connect in their phone, which is amazing. Like this wasn't the thoughts of doing this last year was unheard of. The problems that brings up is if there's 6 people using the one room, there's 6 different interfaces, or there can be 6 different interfaces. So what starts off as a problem, the sound isn't working, now turns into the sound isn't working and the internet isn't working because the person who was there before disconnected the internet to plug in their own. Then you have person at period 3 might need internet, they might use Wi-Fi. So the report of the internet isn't working. When person in period 2 says the internet isn't working, and I go and I knock on the door, and of course I can't walk in. And it says the internet working, I get a thumbs up, the internet is fine. So that's it's just a new way of doing things, but everybody has been super, like, the difference is everybody is helping everybody.
Yes, I agree with that.
That the community in the school is unreal.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying yesterday. You know, we have to be kind and we have to be patient. And I think, as you say, Hassan, people are helping each other, and the skills that you have from that as well. And I think, I don't know about you, like, it's sort of, we're looking at network capacity. I mean, the complexity now of, like, would have had PCs, and a certain amount of people would have had devices, you know, but now it's like, you know, there's just all different versions, and you're just trying to deal with, you know, the challenges of the interfaces. Oh, look, this looks different on this device to when I was on the PC. So
yeah,
I think every half an hour I've learned something phenomenal. I reckon I'd be like that for a long time to go.
Yeah, and you know what? So do I. And what I think what I like most of all is it's not hanging on the technology working or not working. It's just like the process is just going ahead. If the technology works, they're like, yes, excellent. If the technology doesn't work, we need to sidestep it. We're not going to dwell on it. I'm going to pass this to Hassan. He'll deal with it.
Yeah.
That's something that wasn't there. So yeah, it's good.
Can I ask, do you think are people more in tune to using technology? Do you think that has come about as a result of all of this?
Oh, I can see that. I can see.
Yeah.
There's been like a monumental shift in this technical skills that people have, you know, students and teachers, and what people are doing now, what I'm seeing them doing. And I think this brings to the point is, like, they're getting more and more comfortable with using the technology, and then they're bringing all the pedagogical skills, you know, is layering on top of that, and that's where it gets really exciting and very innovative, you know.
I couldn't agree with you more, Helen. I'm do you know what, to see, I'm in the unique position, and I always say this, that I could, if I was that way inclined, I'd write a book about it, but I get to walk around schools, wander around school corridors, so I hear everything. I hear teachers talking in classrooms, I hear students talking in corridors, and I'm invisible, so nobody pays any heed to me. But what I've noticed this year is I've heard teachers talking about Cahoots, OneNote, G Suite, and it's all mixed together. Whatever serves the purpose is used. And it doesn't matter whether you're using an iPad or a Chromebook or just students are using their own devices. Whatever the teacher, it's like I found a thing on of place. Everybody look at this, look, take out your phone. That wasn't there before. There was always the barrier, the stop, and they go, I'll have to check that out first, and I might print it out, or I'll photocopy it and I'll hand it out. Whereas they're more inclined to use every technology that's available to them. So it's good. It's good. It's a good news story.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So to dive in, pedagogy and the educational use of technology, like the last webinar, you've both created 2 short videos. So who wants to go first, and who's going to introduce it?
So my little video is a 3-minute video, well, just over 3-minute video, and it just basically explains. I use OneNote in my classes, and it is where you're using the collaboration space, and you're trying to harness the energies and the strengths of all students to contribute to group projects. And what I'm really trying to do is to have a sort of a mechanism where students over the lifetime of a project can input the work that they've done, the problems that they've had to solve, and how they solve it, how they would make it better. But really what we're trying to see is to see so that the teacher, when they're looking at that group project, yes, they see the finished product, but they also see the process of how they got there, going through that whole design process, and but also seeing the inputs that the students gave at different points. So I think that's always a kind of a sticking point, is that, like, maybe one person contributes the most. So this allows people, like the students, to have different roles, play to their strengths, and contribute in whatever way they can. So basically what it is, I have a series of pages that I create. I share out to the collaboration space, to the groups. I set up a little group for them, and then they contribute as they see fit. Now, I've only just shown a few of the pages that I would use. You can expand it as you wish. And I think like the video basically speaks for itself. In this short video, what I want to do is explore the potential of online collaboration to harness the work of all students within group projects. So group work, basically engaging everyone. And I'm seeing this through the lens of a constructivist pedagogical orientation. So that's where in the classroom we're trying to incorporate participatory or inquiry-based learning activities at a whole class level, at a group level, maybe pair level, or an individual level. In this scenario, I use this at group level, where groups might be anything from 2 to 4 in a group. So I use OneNote class notebook for my classes, but this, I think, is applicable in whatever learning platform that you're using in your classes on a day-to-day basis. So in class notebook, we have the collaboration space here, and I've already set this up. And how you can do that is if you click on the class notebook menu there, and you click on that icon there to manage notebooks. And if I click that, it will bring me to here. And essentially what I do is I click on that link there, and I can set up the students that I want to participate in the different sections of the collaboration space. It's kind of like their individual channels. What I also do, and probably what is the critical part of it, is that I have a series of pages that I use. I've only shown a few here, but essentially what it is, this is like a design process to design the project that they're working on. And, the project might last 2 weeks, it could be 6 weeks, it could be, 10 weeks. It's applicable for any length of a project. So a project typically goes through a life cycle of, investigate, planning, designing, creating, and then evaluating. And this is also what it's doing, is this, by doing this work collaboratively and online throughout the lifetime, is the documentation is being generated dynamically. So, for example, I tend to have a page here when students are at the very start of the project. They might get stuck for ideas, and they can look at this, or they might have their own. Groups are set up and they're randomly set up. So, I say encourage them all to have a project title, which is the working title, a group rule, who their project is aimed at, and then the different roles. Then what you have are brainstorming ideas. They can put down whatever they want, but critically, it's this project diary. And this is where what you're trying to do is harness the different strands of work that each of the students are doing throughout the lifetime. And they have to put in, I suggest that they put in the problems that they solve, the problems they encounter, because it's the richness of this, the variety of group work that is what we're trying to capture. And these will augment key skills such as collaboration and communication and managing information, being personally effective, and also critical and creative thinking. So this is just a very quick insight into the potential of using online collaboration tools to harness the strengths of different students in group projects.
That's brilliant, Helen.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant. Excellent stuff, Helen.
And I've been using that now for quite a few years with my classes. And, you know, I would start them at first year and I build up slowly. And you should see, like, you know, over time, it does take time to embed, but it's very effective.
That's it. So I think again you were using the Bridge 21 model there, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see that Bridge 21, which is, you know, constructivist in nature. And so that's a huge influence on
Yeah.
that work there.
And then it's design based as well. Is that fair
Yeah.
to say? Yeah.
So I'm a phase one computer science teacher. So that's where you can see the influence of the design process in terms of developing, you know, computational artifacts. So it's sort of marrying those. So basically what's happening is the Bridge 21 learning model is augmenting the curriculum, and in particular the key skills, but also the learning outcomes. So what I've found is that, you know, students, you know, through that collaborative, and that's only one aspect of it, but it will, that engaging in that design process augments the key skills, and it enhances the engagement in the learning outcomes, because, you know, there's a self-motivation there, but it just happens, you know, and it's really, it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing you said there, and I was kind of so this year principals, we have 1 day a week in the office, which is just it's brilliant, you know. But I have a teacher who comes into us 1 day a week, and I was explaining this to her that if she wanted to, you know, I've got models on my wall, and one of them was the Bridge 21 model. And I said, look, if you're interested, try that out with the kids, because the kids love it. They love to partake in it. They love to, you know, take control, because they have autonomy and they have agency and all that comes with it. But I explained to her, the first time you do it, it won't work well. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not familiar with it yourself. Like, and it's a step-by-step process for them getting experience with it, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how many years have I been using it? About 5 years or so, you know, and so it does take time, and, you know, you're facilitating, and you know, but reasonably quickly you will start, you know, if I use a class on class, so, you know, I've been using it for a good while, but I'm still learning, you know, of how to use it. But again, it, you know, it will come, and it's very powerful, you know, way of teaching. So that, I would say, yeah, just, you know, it's practice, and you know, peeling it back, and understanding how it works.
Yeah. And then there's two elements in it. One is that it's obviously socially constructivist.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is, it's so, we always mix up this term, social constructionism. You know, where they're actually building artifacts. Like that's the crucial part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you know, they are, so they're building it, and it's not like they're doing it, you know, like sort of individual parts that they can assemble on the day, you know, let's say when you're going to present it. It's throughout the life cycle that they're working, students are working together, and you see them working together, you know,
Yeah.
trying to work it out. Now, sometimes it might be student A and B in a group that are working together, but, you know, that's, you know, yourself, that's how it kind of works. But they will work to their strengths. And, you know, I think if you're in a position to do it, you know, I'm teaching first to sixth years, so I will introduce first years to that, and it takes them time to get used to this type of you know, of a classroom where it's like, it would sort of seem to be messy, and you can walk around, and noisy, and, you know, very creative. And now I have to be careful, given the scenario that we're in at the moment. You know, I have to keep on saying, keep distant. So we're, you know, but that again, you've got the technology, because they can be, you know, sitting at their, you know, computers or at their devices as well, and they can be, you know, typing in their, you know, whatever they're into their report, and yet, you know, they're still, you know, say, socially distant. So it's you know, use the technology to do what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I found that as well at the moment, like when they're sharing Google Doc with one another or Google presentation, they're a meter apart, but yet they're able to collaborate. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
it
So
really
it's
is.
really good.
And even for corrections then as well, you know, when you're up at the top of the class, they share something with you, and you know, it's really handy. Yeah.
And also another aspect of it is, and I saw a teacher yesterday, just like you, Hassan, uh, giving a test out to third years. So, you know, in OneNote, there's no pages being handed out, distributed through OneNote or, you know, whatever classroom platform you're using. And then, you know, tick, tick, tick afterwards, you know. So it's really, really powerful stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you enjoy it, huh? Like, do you enjoy teaching like that?
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Now you have
Yeah.
to get used to it, okay?
Yeah.
And there's, do you?
Oh, I do. No, 100% I do. It's like, what can I say? Like, it's hard. I don't know. No, I don't. Again, I don't know if this is a bias or my own kind of experiences, but it's obviously I find it hard to do it all of the time at primary level. Just to
Okay.
use that particular model all of the time. Yeah, I would hold my hand up with that. Because I suppose there is, you know, there's some formal knowledge I think that kids need to know. Do you know what I mean? There's some knowledge which maybe you have to teach formally, or certainly which certainly you can teach it formally. I know you can teach everything formally, but certainly there is some formal knowledge. But it's the functional experience. You know, when they actually go through it and they design and they find what works, they find what doesn't work. They have a great idea and it falls apart. They have a terrible idea and it becomes an amazing idea. Do you
Hmm.
know? And it's like it's that, and plus 90% of the time you're on the periphery and you're just observing this happening, and you feel great because you go like just by using the model you kind of go, oh, it's like I've waved a magic wand here and everyone's doing what you could never get them to do when you're the one up in front of the class teaching.
Yeah. Now
Yeah,
it
if that
is
makes
it,
sense.
it it's really hard. It is actually hard work because you're going around all the groups, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and you know everyone has got, you know, different let's say demands and stuff like that, you know.
yeah,
But also what I was just say, and I do agree because there is like there would be theory that you do have to teach. So what I do is like there's just different, you know, steps going through the Bridge 20 learning model. But in the investigate area, that phase, which is sort of one of
yeah.
the earlier steps,
Mm,
that's where I will do. I at that point I will talk some theory. Now, what I might do is I'm at the computer modeling what they, you know, are to do, and they can be following that. So you're using another type of pedagogical model there. So you know where you're, you know, let's say, so I'm looking at from a computer science point of view. So it's called PRIM. So it is predict, run, investigate, model, and then you make. Okay, so you know, so you're you know doing that. You know that you're writing the code, and students are writing as well. And you're saying, okay, now what do you think is going to happen here? So you know, so you can insert within that sort of broader pedagogical framework of say Bridge 21, you can insert other
yeah,
pedagogical models in there, and it's flexible enough to do that, you know.
yeah,
And you know, again, going back to our the sort of, I suppose, the educational use of technology, you know, you see it could be OneNote, it could be, you know, I happen to be using another, you know, Python editor, for example, but you know, it could be anything. You know, if you're in music class, whatever, you know, subject you're in, you're inserting the technology that is relevant to your subject.
yes, yeah. And then yeah, I suppose the other funny thing is as well, like at primary level in particular, or certainly in my class, I can't speak for everyone obviously, like there are lessons where I don't use technology, Helen.
You
It's
know, and
yeah.
neither do I sometimes. And my
Oh
computer
my
science
God.
students say, what? There's no, we're not using the computer. No, no, there's the computer. You got to use
Yeah,
that
yeah,
head.
yeah. But that's something like, and that's why it is pedagogy, isn't it? It's not just education. Yeah, and I think that's the whole key to it. Like, and you mentioned social constructivism there, but yet when you are teaching yourself, obviously it's a little bit you're borrowing maybe from the traditional genre of pedagogy, you know, because there are distinct phases or distinct areas, I suppose, and you know
Mhm.
you need to respect them as well, like because I suppose one of the things is pedagogy is not new. You know, it's something which is built up over certainly hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, and there are elements of it which are still relevant no matter where you are. I think the best way I heard it put was, I won't mention his name, but he's a brilliant man anyways, and he said that, you know, when I go in for a heart operation, I don't want my heart surgeon to be taking a constructivist approach. You know, he wants it to be procedural, like there's no kind of, this worked, this didn't work, you know, look, we'll move on to the next phase, like, you know. I think that's very relevant, like, I think there's good thing in it. Because as well, like, you have to remember that, like, I suppose one of the great things is that we're in an era where we're encouraged to professionally experiment in the class. And I think that's fair to say. We seem to have more agency and autonomy than teachers had previously.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair to say. But at the end of the day, like, you still got to get the objectives across. You still got to get through the content, you know, and you've got to. I suppose you got to move to evidence-based practice. And that's why I really like your OneNote there.
Because you can see it. I mean, you know, you can look at it and you can just say, okay, and it's very rich, you know, and you know, as you progress through there's different pages that I haven't shown all of the pages, but you know, and if you keep on repeating that is that iteration. So, you know, I would do, you know, as I say, I have students from first year to sixth year, so they see that, you know, and they build that skill up over time. So like by the time they get to, you know, fifth and sixth year, you know, some of the work is really, you know, they really understand this. And this is, if you were to look at that design process, that's like sort of, it's metacognition. It's them thinking about how to think about it. So rather than just diving straight into a project, okay, so I'm talking about coding, but it could be any, you know, whatever the artifact is you're trying to make, is to think about the design and, you know, to work through it. And that takes a long time because you know, everyone wants to just dive in, you know, and that's okay as well, because, you know, and I say it's very fluid, you know, so it's not rigid that you're doing this. It's all extremely fluid, and that's the creativity and the problem solving there.
And then, like, there's one thing that you mentioned in design, obviously. Like, do you see planning as a chore, or do you view it? I'm probably putting the answer that I want to hear, but you know, it's a terrible way of doing it. But like, or do you see yourself as a designer?
So it depends. Okay, I'll be honest. Sometimes, yes, I do see planning as a chore.
Yeah.
However, if I don't plan, I'm not clear in my head what I'm trying to do. Even if I'm not, and this doesn't make sense, I need a framework. All I'm looking for is a framework, and I know I can fill in, you know, the gaps will be filled in. So that's what I would say the planning is. It's, you know, it's to allow the students to have the fluidity and structure so that they can fill in what's going to happen, but they still need a structure. They need to know that they are going through different phases and to understand that.
Yeah, and that's, and how can I put it? So I think like one of the, so from my own experiences again of teaching and becoming a teacher, like during TP and during teaching practice, you had to plan, you know, and you learned the necessity of planning, obviously, but it became like a chore. Do you know what I mean? It certainly, I think it removed the joy out of what I think I found again by beginning to use instructional design models, if that makes sense. And like now, and I don't know, like if it's like the placebo effect, but when I sit down to do it, I kind of say, well, I'm designing, I'm not planning.
Yes.
You know
okay.
what I mean?
Yeah. So that's interesting.
But I see it as a much more creative process than just planning. Yeah, it's into, maybe it's just a mind shift, or maybe it's just.
And design sort of there's almost a sense that it's kind of more open-ended than, you know, planning is like, you know, I don't know. I suppose, I mean, I am very structured in my planning, but I'm still very open. It's trying to get that balance, I think, you know, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So do we want to go over to your video then, Dermot?
Yeah. Is Hassan, have we lost
I have
Hassan?
no idea.
No,
Hassan,
no, I'm here. I could listen to the pair of you all. So Dermot, do you want to?
The Premiership.
Internet isn't strong enough. I tried. Moving on. So Dermot, do you want to introduce your video, please?
Yeah, 100%. So I suppose where does this come out of? So obviously I've used a couple of books in the design of this video, and I've taken quite a lot of information from people who can articulate it in a better manner than I can. So I think I was the one who essentially pushed this title, this long-winded sentence of pedagogy and the educational use of technology. But the reason why I suppose is because that's the background that I believe I've come from, where it has always been impressed on me that it's about pedagogy, and educational use of technology then can enhance that pedagogy to achieve, I suppose, learning goals, learning objectives, and learning, teaching and learning, really. So what I've done here in this video, then you'll see, is I've tried to lay out the different pedagogies, then try to highlight what that means for teaching and learning, what it means for assessment, and then I've suggested some so so instructional design models, even though I know one or two of them you wouldn't call them instructional design models, but certainly design models. So these would be models people can use in order to structure teaching and learning. That's a lot to take in, obviously, in
That
2
is
minutes, 50 seconds.
good, Anya. Good.
It's really good,
Impressive.
Dermot, it lays it out very clearly, and you can see where, so I would like say, if we look at the order of this webinar, I went straight into, I give an example, but now you're sort of bringing it back and sort of an overview.
Yeah, no, again, I've used books, I wouldn't say plagiarized, but I've certainly been informed by books there, like in order to put that together. But it's a handy way of thinking of things, I find. If you can, like anyone, it's nice when we have categories or we have a structure, And I think like that in particular, certainly from my own reading of it at the moment. In particular, it's those last two, that kind of socially constructivist and socio-cultural, that's where we will be able to find, that's where we'll be able to unlock the potential of the educational use of technology in school. I think that if you're over to the left, you know, if you're using the traditional and individually constructivist, well, I think that that's where you're really enhancing established practice.
Mhm.
You know, you have a tendency, for example, I know myself, when I first began utilizing technology in school, I was making PowerPoints. You know, I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was like this amazing teacher, because I could create a nice PowerPoint and you could put in a transition, and you know, it made a noise. There was a bell ringing every now and again, and I thought, yeah, this is it, like, you know. But it was only then, as you begin to begin to master more complex pedagogy. So like those models there that you've been mentioning, so like the bridge model, obviously, and obviously I haven't mastered it yet, if you know what I mean. But even like in the traditional area, the designing events of instruction, or using a constructivist model, or using a bridge model, or using the expansive learning cycle, or you know, the design thinking model lessons, all of these models. And once you get in there, you begin to see these links, or I did, you know, these better links between the theory of learning and how you're doing it in the classroom. And I find that those models, they're wonderful for just connecting those two areas, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that certainly helped my planning, you know, and I certainly think it's helped my teaching and learning. I know it has. Like, I've become a far better teacher from it. But yeah, I suppose it's those last two. That's where you begin to unlock things a bit better than, you know, maybe the first half of it. And that's not to say one is bad and one is good.
Mhm.
It's just that, I don't know, maybe yourself had an, again, I think you said before that, like, this is all you know as a
This is all
teacher.
I
Like,
know.
yeah, is this style of teaching. I would have been wildly different. Like, when I started teaching, I was, you know, it was whatever I knew. Once I could transmit that over to the students, like, that was brilliant, you know. But I'm glad I'm wrong. Yeah.
And I suppose I should say that, because I obviously I was in school, but then I worked in industry for years, and I worked in American companies for years, as well. And so then when I joined school, so I suppose, and then when I was started to begin it was my experience, I think, from industry, and then when I looked at the, let's say particularly the Bridge 21 learning model, it gave me a framework. I just remember thinking it was a eureka moment where it gave me a framework, but it's a very flexible framework, and you can incorporate other pedagogies in there, but also what is that you embed it in the class, and it gives a security and a consistency for the students. They know what, they feel comfortable, and if they feel comfortable, and you know what to expect, then they don't have to worry about that. All they have to do is think about how to do, what they've been asked to do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
Hassan, we hand it back to you. Is there
The,
anything you
I,
have more to
I,
say?
I, I have nothing to add to that whatsoever. No, do you know what? I think the approach that's being taken is important, and it's the not to be afraid to try new things. I think that's key as well. I think that's important to bring forward. Just because you don't necessarily understand the way of the way that others are doing it, it doesn't mean you can't stop them and go, and how exactly did you do that? Like, don't be afraid to ask, how did you do that? I took a completely different approach to it. So I came across this Instagram page. So when Dermot forced us to use the title, what is it, Dermot? Pedagogy and the educational use of technology.
Yes.
Like, I wanted to go with teaching and learning. So, but no, Dermot, you went highbrow. When I was thinking about this, I came across around the same time, I came across this Instagram page, and we never associate social media and education as much as we probably could, because there's so much negative twists. There's always a negative thing to social media. However, I found this really, really nice Instagram page, and it's called Sign to Hear. Can everybody see that screen at the minute?
Yeah.
Yep.
So Sign to Hear is a very basic Instagram page, and I'm lucky enough to be speaking to Taylor Beth tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And it's a page put together by her mother, and you can see the born 2010, 2011, diagnosed as deaf, 2012, first cochlear implant, 2015, second cochlear implant. What the page is, she picks one sign a day, and then that's it. There's nothing, there's no context to it. It's just one sign, and I'm hooked. And it's gotten to the stage where I wait every day for that sign. So for example, we'll go with this one.
Hello, today's sign is sun.
The idea of clicking on that every day and just to go, hello, today's sign is sun. The idea of to sit down in front of the phone to learn something, that got me. Like, today's sign is sun. There's other ones that she does, like sign to remember. To me, that is a really, really nice use of social media. And it's a really simple use.
Today's sign is remember. And we remember all those people who lost their lives in 9/11.
And I think just to wrap it up, I think if you get a chance, look it up on Instagram, Sign to Hear. And if you learned a sign a day, you could be doing an awful lot worse than learning a sign a day, should I say.
That's really cool. I really like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Where's the girl? She's Irish. Hassan. Sorry,
yeah, she's Irish.
Yeah.
I don't know where she's based.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know anything other than I know the Instagram page. I follow her, and I've been messaging her mother about organizing a time for an interview. I'm going to do that interview tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I would have loved to get her on for the chat with the two of you. And maybe I'll ask her for future. I think it'd be nice to do something like that in the webinar. Something us through the camera, so maybe a sign a week or a sentence. Or, like I said, it's all about learning something new, and whether you use it or not, it's about learning.
She might be able to put together a sign for pedagogy and the educational use of technology.
Yes, Dermot.
Yes.
Yeah, that was on my number 1 list with I love you, good night, and good morning. that's what I wanted. So that's all for me. And just to show off, I'll say good night.
Good night from me. Thank you very much.
Good night from me as well. Great to chat to you both again.